If you watched episodes 1 and 2, you know Rome plans to spend more than it makes. And you know the savings account that covers this posted its first decline in 2024. So the obvious question is why? Why is that gap getting bigger and what exactly is driving it? Well, that's what the video is about today. This is Rome's structural picture. The blue line is what the city actually brings in from recurring sources like taxes, state aid, the things it counts on every year. The red line is what it costs to run the city. Costs have been running above revenue for most of the decade, and that gap has been getting wider since 2023. Now, you might think, okay, then cut spending. And that's a fair instinct, so let's look at what the city has actually been doing. Every year the city adopts a budget, a ceiling on what it plans to spend. The red dashed line is that ceiling, and the blue line is what the department actually spent. Every single year, departments came in under budget. They held vacancies, deferred purchases, they kept costs low compared to what they were authorized to spend. Now that's real discipline, and it's documented, and it matters. The people running Rome's departments have been doing more with less for years. But here's the thing, if the city is already running lean, then the problem is not what our people are spending. The problem must be growing somewhere else. And that's what's happening, but not in a way that City Hall really controls. Start with wages. The orange line is the total wages and salaries, and the gray dashed line is general inflation. Wages have tracked close to inflation for a decade, and that's what you would expect, but here's the constraint that it creates. $21 million a year in wages, growing every year since 2020, fixed by contracts already signed. It's a piece that everything else has to fit around. Now look at pension. When Rome hires a police officer or a fireman, the pension is managed by New York State. Albany sets the contribution rate. Rome doesn't get to negotiate it. Rome doesn't get to vote on it. Rome just pays whatever it's required to fund those promises. Now, Rome has seen a noteworthy rise in pension costs with essentially the same number of employees. So the growth isn't from hiring, and it's not a rate that Rome controls. And a $20 million spike in Rome's pension liability in 2023 signals that more increases are coming. Then there's healthcare. The orange line is what Rome has actually paid to cover employees and retirees. The gray dashed line is what those costs would look like if they'd just grown with general inflation. Healthcare costs in Rome have been managed well, consistently running below the inflation line. However, that gap is closing now, and it's prudent to assume that healthcare costs will continue to rise for the foreseeable future. Rome currently covers healthcare for around 345 retirees set against roughly 300 full-time employees that are active. No matter the exact number, Rome is paying for more retirees than workers, and that ratio gets bigger every year as the workforce ages. Here's what those three costs look like together: wages, pension, healthcare. In 2015, the combined total was $26.7 million. In 2024, it was $34.1 million. That's $7.4 million over 9 years against revenue that's been essentially flat in real terms. And look at the right side of that chart. The jumps in 2023 and 2024 are the largest on record. The acceleration is real, and it's not likely to slow down. I want to be clear about something before we go further. None of this is the fault of the people who work for the city. They earn fair wages, they were promised a pension, they were promised health care when they retired. Those are not unreasonable things to promise the people who plow your streets and protect your neighborhoods. The problem is not the promises, the problem is that the costs attached to those promises are growing faster than Rome's ability to pay for them. And one of those costs, healthcare, has something else working against it. Something that makes this whole picture significantly more serious. That's what episode 4 is about, so we'll see you there.